Back in 2015, if you were plugged into the gaming news cycle at all, you couldn't escape one specific name: Hatred. Developed by Destructive Creations, this game didn't just court controversy, it built a mansion on it, moved in, and threw a housewarming party. It was the ultimate edgelord manifesto captured in digital form. You play as a nameless, trenchcoat-wearing, long-haired antagonist whose entire motivation is a deep, seething misanthropy. The goal? Go outside and unleash pure Armageddon on civilians and law enforcement alike. When it first launched, the gaming world was divided between genuine outrage and people expecting the next evolution of a raw, unfiltered shooter. But once the smoke cleared and the initial shock value evaporated, we were left with a game that critics largely panned. It was called repetitive, shallow, and exhausting. And to be fair, in its vanilla state, they weren't entirely wrong. But a funny thing happens when a highly destructive game engine meets a dedicated community with a lot of time on their hands. Over a decade later, Hatred has quietly undergone a massive renaissance, turning into something genuinely compelling. To understand why the modded version is such a revelation, we have to look at what vanilla Hatred actually gets right, and where it falls completely flat. At its core, Hatred is an isometric twin-stick shooter. Visually, it's undeniably striking. The developers opted for a harsh, high-contrast, monochrome art style, where the only real colors are the brilliant orange of fire, the neon flash of police lights, and the deep crimson of blood. It gives the entire experience a gritty, graphic novel aesthetic that works incredibly well for the oppressive tone they were aiming for. And then there's the physics engine. Hatred runs on Unreal Engine 4, and the environmental destruction is legitimately spectacular. You aren't just shooting enemies, you are tearing the world apart. Walls crumble into individual bricks under shotgun fire. Cars explode into twisted metal, and entire house facades collapse if you throw a grenade through the front window. There is a weight and a tactile crunch to the gameplay that a lot of AAA games fail to replicate. But the problems start when you look at the actual gameplay loop. In the vanilla game, you run into an area, kill a designated number of civilians to progress, and deal with incoming police response. Because there is no health regeneration, you are forced to use the game's execution mechanic. Knock an enemy down, press a button, and you watch a brutal, close-up cinematic execution to regain your health. At first, this risk-reward loop is tense, but by hour 3, it becomes incredibly tedious. The isometric camera can make aiming feel clumsy, the movement is a bit floaty, the weapons feel largely identical, and watching the exact same execution animations for the 100th time grinds the pacing of the action to a screeching halt. The vanilla game gives you a phenomenal destruction sandbox, but almost no mechanical depth to actually enjoy it. This is where the story gets interesting. The modding community looked at Hatred and realized that underneath the teenage angst and the repetitive loop, there was a deeply competent, highly optimized physics engine just begging to be unlocked. If you want to see how good this game can actually get, you need to look at total overhauls like the Hatred 1.333 and 1.666 mods. These aren't just simple texture swaps. They are ground-up mechanical redesigns that completely alter how you interact with the game world. First and foremost, these mods tackle the camera. They introduce fully functional third-person and first-person perspectives. Suddenly, you aren't looking down at a tiny character like an omnipotent puppet master. You are right there on the ground. Swapping the game to an over-the-shoulder third-person camera completely transforms Hatred into a gritty, tactical cover shooter. The destruction physics hit 10 times harder when a wall is exploding right in front of your face in full 3D space. The modders even went so far as to fix the aiming systems, adding actual weapon recoil and functioning aim-down sights mechanics for the first-person mode. But they didn't stop at the camera. The modding scene fundamentally repaired the game's broken combat logic. In the base game, headshots were incredibly inconsistent. With these overhauls, headshots are properly mapped and fully functional, rewarding precise aiming rather than just mindless spray and pray. They completely reworked the audio design as well, implementing spatial sound and distinct heavy audio profiles for every single weapon, giving the gunplay a punchy, terrifying realism that the original release lacked. They also introduced a brilliant surveillance camera perspective for executions, reminiscent of the old Manhunt games, which makes the cinematic interruptions feel organic to the presentation rather than a jarring break in gameplay. And if you found the black and white aesthetic too depressing or eye-straining after an hour, the popular color mods inject full, vibrant Technicolor back into the world, transforming the game into a hyper-violent, chaotic action sandbox. If you really want to see the peak of modded hatred, you have to download the Survival Overhaul mod. The vanilla game featured a bare-bones survival mode that got old fast, but the community turned it into a masterclass in horde mode design. The mod completely reworks the enemy spawn systems. Instead of enemies just spawning from a single point and walking toward you, they flank, use cover, and coordinate their assaults across massive new custom maps like military bases and sprawling downtown sectors. The Survival Overhaul unlocks all weapons and perks from the jump and introduces highly chaotic elements like buyable heavily armed Humvees, drivable turrets, and devastating custom weaponry like the fully automatic Sega 12 shotgun. It even leans into the absurdity of the game's legacy by letting you swap out the gloomy antagonist for guest characters like the Postal Dude from Postal or Leo Casper from Manhunt 2, complete with custom wave sets where you can fight specific factions. By shifting the focus away from the uncomfortable premise of the story mode and leaning heavily into a pure mechanical, arcade-style survival sandbox, the game becomes endlessly replayable. It turns hatred into what it always should have been: a high-octane, incredibly destructive, mechanically deep shooter. Ultimately, hatred is one of the most fascinating case studies in PC gaming. If you play it completely vanilla, it's a mediocre, repetitive, twin-stick shooter wrapped in a blanket of mid-2010s shock value that wears out its welcome within the first 2 hours. But when you open up the Steam Workshop and let the community work its magic, hatred transforms into an absolute powerhouse of an action game. It is living proof of how a brilliant physics engine and stunning destruction systems can be completely rescued by passionate modders. By fixing the camera perspectives, tightening the gunplay, adding mechanical depth, and expanding the survival modes, modders took a game that was widely considered a joke and turned it into one of the most satisfying, visceral, tactical shooters you can play today. If you've ever been curious about hatred, or if you bought it years ago and let it gather digital dust in your library, do yourself a favor. Mod it until it breaks, boot up the third-person mode, and experience the game it was always meant to be. It's honestly wild to see how a game that started as the ultimate internet lightning rod ended up becoming a genuinely fun, visceral sandbox, all because a dedicated community refused to let a phenomenal physics engine go to waste. But I want to hear from you guys. Did you actually play Hatred back when it dropped in 2015? Or did you completely write it off? Have you given any of these third-person or survival overhauls a shot yet? Let me know down in the comments below. I'm really curious to see what your history with this game is. If you liked this video and found it helpful, do me a massive favor and hit that like button. It really helps support the channel and tells the almighty YouTube algorithm that we're doing something right here. If you want to see more deep dives, mod showcases, and gaming retrospectives just like this one, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. As always, a huge thank you to all of you for hanging out and watching. Take care of yourselves, stay safe out there, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye for now.